Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a great day and a lovely weekend. We had quite the shows over the weekend. Friday night, we had Neon Revolt. Saturday, it was David Weiss. If you guys did not get a chance to check those out, you can always go to the live stream playlist on my channel page. Check those out at your leisure. They were both very interesting conversations. I think we had a little bit of something for everybody. Now, today, I am pleased to say that my guest is Brandon Straka, the founder of the WalkAway movement. And Brandon, I just want to say thank you once again for agreeing to come on the show. He even allowed us to use a little clip of one of his videos. You'll see that at the end. If you do have any questions and you want to get a hold of Brandon, you can go into the description below this video and the relevant links to reach him, his movement, a couple of social media pages, and even a website. You can check that out and go see what Brandon and the WalkAway movement are up to. If you're not familiar with the WalkAway movement, it was created by Brandon as a pathway, if you will, for people to leave the Democrat Party. I would say now more than ever, we've got Democrats all across the country waking up, realizing that they've been lied to for decades, and that the party that they thought they were in is not exactly what was represented to them. So people like Brandon, who had that realization, were able to successfully leave, although perhaps with a bit of disruption to their life. But now I would say that people like myself, people in my family, people like Brandon, they know that their lives are all the better for making that choice to go and follow their heart and see what's really going on here today in America. So please join me in welcoming Brandon to the podcast, and the interview is coming right up after a brief word from my sponsor. Did you guys read about Dutch National Bank? Well, they're holding over $20 billion worth of gold in their vaults, and they just bought more. Why? On their website, they say gold always retains its value, crisis or no crisis. Will your personal IRA accounts still hold their value in a crisis? Do you have control and ownership of your own retirement savings? If you're not sure, you need to sort your financial security out. Hit the link below or call 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. And make sure you tell them that Red Pill 78 sent you. And speak to one of Noble Gold's experts because they will help you straighten out your options. All right, so joining me today is Brandon Straka from the WalkAway movement. It has basically taken the country by storm. It's been a whirlwind since it began. And Brandon, I just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show today. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So what was it that caused you to start the WalkAway movement?
Well, I'm the former liberal and Democrat who walked away after I voted in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. So for me, it was a couple of different things. It was a walk away from liberal ideology. It was a walk away from the Democrat Party. It was a walk away from the liberal media, largely those three entities in general. But it really happened, because I went on a quest to try to understand why Donald Trump got elected, because I was really horrified and scared and shaken, when Donald Trump got elected, because the media kept saying, first of all, the media said that he wouldn't, that he had absolutely no chance of winning. But they also, as we know, say that he's a racist and a bigot and a homophobe and all these terrible things, which that narrative has not changed, but it was, it certainly existed back then too, when he was running for office. And so I really wanted to try to understand why. And in January of 2017, at this point, famously, I've told this story probably 25,000 times, I posted on social media that I would never be able to understand how anyone could vote for a man who stood before a cheering crowd and mocked a reporter's disability. And that's when somebody reached out to me with a clip entitled "Debunking That Trump Mocked the Disabled Reporter." And it was a compilation of footage that showed very clearly that the media manipulated that situation to make it seem as though Donald Trump was mocking a reporter's disability, when in fact he was making fun of the fact that this reporter, who just happened to be disabled, was flailing because he was caught in a lie. Because this is something Donald Trump has done. It's a bit that Donald Trump has done many times throughout the years when he's imitating anybody who's flailing because they're caught in a lie. There's footage of him doing that exact same thing. And So it had nothing to do with that reporter's disability. And that was when, the first time that I was like, oh my God, I think the media that I've trusted is capable of telling a blatant lie. That's, something that's designed to sort of manipulate my emotions and instill fear and mistrust and misgivings. And that sent me on a journey to try to understand what was going on. And by the end of the journey, I realized that there was a major glitch in the matrix, and that, the reality that I had been believing in for so long was not really reality, that everything was sort of inside out and upside down. And so I walked away, and I created a campaign called the #WalkAway campaign, encouraging other people to also walk away from liberalism and the Democratic Party. And that's kind of where it started. That was like let me just say, that was the worst job I've ever done telling my story of why I walked away and why I created WalkAway. You would think by the 2,500th time, it would just be like icing on cake, but nope, that was tragic.
Oh, it's great. I liked it. So when that happened, was it a gradual realization that Donald Trump was not the person that he had been portrayed as in the media? Did you continue to, look for things and pick things apart that you saw in the media?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, once I made that one discovery about that one incident, I kind of went back to the beginning and I started revisiting all of those sort of key moments in the campaign that were picked apart by the media. Like, did he really call all Mexicans rapists? Did he really advocate for the sexual assault of women in that Access Hollywood tape? Did he really call for the banning of all Muslims from the country? I kind of just went back and revisited everything and tried to watch it all in its proper context. And, once I started doing that, I started seeing that time and again, the media's portrayal of the incident was very different than what actually happened. And that in many circumstances, perhaps the Access Hollywood tape aside, what he was saying was actually maybe something positive, or they took something and completely reversed, what the context and the meaning of what he was saying. And of course, in terms of the Access Hollywood tape, it was, of all of the incidents, I think that's the only one that probably universally everyone could agree the language that was being engaged in was not very presidential or, very appropriate perhaps. But again, this was a secret recording done in a van, of a conversation that he thought was between himself and one other person. And what he was actually describing was not sexually assaulting women or having some sort of power over women. It was about when you are a wealthy and powerful man, there are some women who are attracted to that wealth and that power. And those types of women will oftentimes, they're like groupies for a rock star, a rock band. They'll let you do anything. And in fact, they'll oftentimes insist that you do. And that's what he was describing.
Right. And I would argue that it goes both ways. Both men and women, when you get around people of wealth, power, and privilege, especially celebrities in today's world, this is just the way that a certain group of the population is going to act. So I completely understand that. Once you realize this, did you take it slow, or did you immediately think to yourself, I need to do something. I need to make a big stand with this information? Or did you just kind of gradually start talking to your friends and your family and asking them, had they themselves come to that realization?
Well, it was gradual for sure. I started off just having conversations with fellow liberals, fellow New Yorkers, coworkers. And at that time, I was still trying to understand what it was that I was learning, because it blew my mind. And I was just going to people and saying like, hey, have you seen this? What do you think of this? What do you make of this? Like, I don't think he actually mocked that reporter's disability. Take a look at this and tell me, do you think this is weird? Like, what's going on? And a lot of people were getting upset with me for simply even asking these questions or having this conversation. They took it as a sign of betrayal that I was, jumping off the Trump hate train. And, and that was the first sort of sign that I had that there was something very peculiar happening, because I thought to myself, well, I don't want to be afraid of the president. Like, I don't want to hate the president. That's not the state of being I want to be in. I am afraid of the president, and I do hate the president because of, all of these things that I believe, but I would be much happier to find out that I was wrong. I would love to find out I was wrong and be like, oh, great. The president's not a bad guy. But I started to see that there were so many people out there that didn't want to let go. Like, they didn't want to be presented with any evidence or anything that would suggest that he's not a monster. He's not a bad guy, that perhaps you don't have to be afraid. They wanted to be angry. They wanted to be enraged. They wanted to be afraid. And which is why I think it's an addiction. I think Trump derangement and hatred of the president stems from addiction. I think that the media are drug peddlers, and the drug is rage, and that most liberals are addicted to that drug. And so, but anyway, I didn't want to be addicted. I was addicted to alcohol and drugs. I joined AA 5 years ago and got clean and sober. So I like to kick. Thank you. I like to kick my addictions. I don't like to wallow in them. And so that was the first thing I started to realize, was that this was not even a conversation that people wanted to have or were open to having. And so then what it really compelled me to do was to get in bed at night and just do more homework and do more research, because I didn't feel safe or, comfortable openly expressing any skepticisms or concerns or questions that I had. So I just thought, okay, well, I'll get in bed and watch videos and read stories and dig into things and watch debates and try to gain a better understanding of why I'm having this experience that I'm having, where suddenly everything I used to believe in, I don't believe in anymore. And then that was, I guess, the next step, was that bit by bit, I found myself being pushed away from liberalism more and more each passing day, because as I watched conservatives debate liberals, and that's when I started to really see the fallacy of the culture that I had been a part of for so long. Because, my liberalism was hugely informed by me being gay. And so there were a lot of things I didn't question about liberalism. I was more like, well, they like me and accept me for being gay, so I'll just like them and accept them for everything else they believe. And a lot of the times I didn't either know or care what they believed. It just didn't really matter to me. Like, I didn't really care if somebody, repealed the Second Amendment and took everyone's gun rights away. I was like, okay, whatever, who cares? No guns, whatever. I didn't, I probably at that time would have thought that there was a good argument to be made for banning hate speech, and therefore encroaching on the First Amendment is fine, because people shouldn't be allowed to say mean things and they should be punished if they do. And, I just didn't really put much thought into it. And I always saw, Republicans as the enemy. I always saw conservatives and right wingers as the enemy. So I thought, well, anything that will disempower right wingers is a good and positive thing. How did I end up on this tangent? Because I know I had more to say.
You had originally started talking about the process of discussing this with other people, and how that led you to actually creating the WalkAway movement. But,
right. Well, I think what I was saying was that it led me to watching debates between conservatives and liberals. And so the ideology that I had kind of gone along with for so long was suddenly looking more and more flimsy to me, as I was seeing the conservative point of view debated against the liberal point of view. And then, there were things that were sort of seeping into the culture anyway. As I said, I feel like I became a liberal because I'm gay, and that was about the totality of the reason why. But then, I started to hear these terms like white privilege and male privilege and patriarchies and hierarchies and victim culture and oppression and systematic oppression. And I was just like, oh, this is just so tiresome. And, then it just became like, I would end up in these situations where it's like you get into an argument with somebody who happens to be black and they're just automatically right because you're white. So you're just like, oh, I'm the devil, and you're not allowed to talk or say anything. And, oh, well, a black person said it, so it's automatically the truth. And I was just like, this is so stupid. This is just so dumb. And it's like so far away from why I became a liberal in the first place. I became a liberal because I'm against racism, right? I'm against sexism. I'm against prejudice or judging people based off of their sexual orientation. But now it's like it's almost compulsory that I have to hate white people, I have to hate men, I have to find heteronormativity problematic if I want. I'm like, this is literally all the stuff that I became a liberal to get away from, but in the reverse of what I thought it was. And I was like, I'm done with it. And I just feel like, through doing this research in 2017, the veil was just ripped off for me of just the complete illogical nature of liberalism and why liberalism empowers this victim mentality and why it gives status and privilege and power to people who proclaim that they are victims. I hate it.
What do you think that's about? Why do you think that they want to, hold up this victim status and make that something desirable?
Well, I think the majority of people don't know better. I mean, I don't think there's actually that many black people who don't believe that they are victims. Like, I don't think that there's that many black people who know we're not really victims, but I'm just going to say that I am because it gives me power and privilege. Like, I think they actually believe it. And I think the majority of LGBT people believe it. And I think the majority of, any minority class of people, I think that they believe it because if you grow up here, like, here's the thing. This is what I say all the time. And I'm sure it pisses a lot of people off, but I don't care because it's the truth. Like, the greatest privilege to being white is that if you're a white person, you probably grew up in a culture that didn't tell you when you made mistakes or you failed, that your mistakes and your failures were not your fault, but because you exist in a system where you're intentionally being oppressed by another race or a larger group of people who wish to see you fail. I mean, when I was growing up, what I was told by my parents and my teachers and people around me was, if you fail, then you better get up and learn from your failure and try harder next time. If you failed at your test, then you need to study harder and you need to work harder if you're going to succeed the next time. And that's what I learned, that my failures and my shortcomings are mine to own, mine to learn from, and that if I want to rise above that failure, I have to do better. And I have to work harder, and I have to learn more, and I have to run faster, and you just have to do better. But there's these whole other groups of people that are just being told, no, it's not your fault that you failed. It's not that you're being held down. You're being oppressed. Imagine how detrimental that would be to the psyche to be a member of a group, and I don't blame them. Why wouldn't you believe it? I mean, if you hear that about yourself and your parents and people around you, of course you're going to believe it. And it's, then that is manipulated by the liberal media, by the Democrat Party, by white liberals to control the thinking and behavior of minorities. The media knows exactly what they're doing. They're in on the game. And so are the Democrat politicians. They know it's all crap. But they know that if they keep saying things like white supremacy is on the rise, and thanks to Trump, white nationalism is being embraced, you're in danger, you're in danger, you're in danger. If you're a person of color, you better find a good hiding place. They know exactly what they're doing. They know it's crap, but they also know that they can get those people to vote exactly the way they want them to by saying it. And to me, that is evil and unconscionable. And that is what I'm trying to blow the lid off of with the WalkAway campaign.
Yeah, it's definitely mass manipulation. And one thing that I would say to add to that is that it seems to me that this millennial class generation that's coming up, that kind of mass victimization status appears to have been, kind of put onto the entire majority of the millennial generation, no matter whether they are, white, black, brown, or whatever. Everyone kind of has, grew up with that participation medal. It's not your fault. It was, somebody else's fault. And I see it like seeping into everything that's going on. And I don't know about you, but in my area, I see people, younger people, they seem to all be like that. They are just obsessed with, the idea of isms and being oppressed. And people, I think that might be why we've got so many people trying to be, part of this movement, because they're just tired of it. They look around and they can see that the media is playing them, and that they have been lied to for all these years. Now, with that realization that Donald Trump was not the person he was portrayed as in the media, did that make you take a second look at, people like Hillary Clinton?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I actually, it's so weird to me that I even voted for her. And I was like, and it wasn't even, I didn't even just vote for her because she was the available candidate. I voted for her because I loved her. And I wanted her to be the presidential nominee in 2008. I was upset that Barack Obama got, the nomination. And so I was riding the Hillary train for years and years. And now I can't stand her. I cannot stand her. I just see so clearly now what it is and what's going on. And, when she's going on television and saying that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian operative and, the white nationalism stuff, I'm like, oh my God, it was there all along. And I wasn't seeing it. This person who I thought was going to be the greatest president of my lifetime, the first female president, is queen scumbag. And I didn't see it at all.
I absolutely agree. Oh, well, how successful has WalkAway been? Have you been able to quantify how many people have joined the movement?
Yeah, so right now the best we can do in terms of metrics is track our social media. And so we began as a Facebook group, the hashtag WalkAway campaign Facebook group, which for anybody out there, I would highly encourage them to join that group. That's where it all began. At this point, that group has 216,000 people and tens of thousands of video and written testimonials from people who are telling their stories about, walking away. And that's where, people can find these videos on YouTube and bits of them on Twitter because, Twitter is their stupid 2-minute and 20-second rule. Instagram is even worse. Don't get me started. I don't know why anyone likes that stupid app. It makes me insane. We could do a whole nother show about how much I hate Instagram. I hate it. Why would you ever want to join an app where all you can do is look at pictures and 1-minute segments of videos where you can't even rewind or pause? Oh my God, it makes me crazy.
It's a time killer. It helps people feed into that outrage machine.
Yeah, but but you go on there and it's you see a video that interests you and you see this, and you're like, oh, what did he say? And you have to wait for it to loop around again for the whole minute because you can't. Oh, it makes me crazy.
Right.
Anyway, so between all of our social media platforms, we actually have over 1 million followers. But when we account for overlap, which I think we're very generous in that accounting, basically we've cut the number in half. And we say that we probably have 500,000 unique followers. And I actually believe it's much more than that because we often ask our Twitter people to go to Facebook. We ask our Facebook people to go to Twitter and Instagram and they all throw a total fit about it. They're the Facebook people are like, we will not go on Twitter. And the Twitter people are like, we will never go on Instagram. And so I actually believe it's a lot more than 500,000. But just to be fair, we say we have over 500,000 unique followers on all social media platforms. And we have tens of thousands of video and written testimonials from people who've told their walk-away stories.
Wow. It's incredible to see. I've watched many of the videos. My mom made a video. She was super excited about it. Coming out as a conservative or as a Trump supporter now is almost dangerous in today's world because people are just obsessed. Like you said, they're obsessed with that rage. They're addicted to it. And the media is not helping. They're feeding into that frenzy. And all of the language that's out there that they're using, it's designed to bait you and pull you in. Who wants to be a white nationalist? Nobody wants to be a white nationalist. Okay. But they've given people no choice. It's either you are a white nationalist or you're on the side of good and right. Now, right. I know that you've been on a speaking tour. You've been doing events. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So we do a number of different events with WalkAway. First is our town hall series, which I'm very proud of, where we've been traveling the country, engaging with different minority groups. These are groups that are typically marketed to and targeted by the Democrat Party and largely ignored by the Republican Party. So we decided to actually get out there and try to make a difference. So we've done WalkAway Black Americans town halls, WalkAway Hispanic American town halls, WalkAway LGBT Americans town halls. We're actually doing our first Hispanic town hall in 1 week from today. 1 week from today. And that's going to be in District 14 of New York City, which is AOC's district.
Should be good.
I actually hand delivered an invitation to the event to her yesterday.
Oh.
I went to her office. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
She was there. Yeah. And then we have our first Jewish Americans town hall in December. And then I'm on a college campus tour that we're calling the WalkAway Thought Revolution College Campus Tour. And so we're kind of traveling around. I have a bunch of dates on that. We're adding every day. We're just about to add NYU, Berkeley, a whole bunch. I actually don't handle that. But as of now, I think we have 5 or 6 more before the end of the year, which is, like 6 weeks from now. And then we're going to get going again next semester and just get out there and
awesome.
So revolutionizing thoughts.
So are you targeting primarily people on college campuses, or is it extending out beyond that? Or is it just easiest to go to college campuses?
With the Thought Revolution tour?
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to gear that message towards young people, students, millennials, anyone really. Yeah. But it's certainly young people, college age people are a demographic that we want to connect with because that's another one that, I think the Republican Party has done a lousy job of communicating with. And again, like to be clear for anybody listening, I'm not trying to turn people into Republicans. Like that's not what WalkAway is about. WalkAway is a movement away from the political left, but we say it's a journey, not a destination, meaning we don't tell you where to go or what to think. We don't lead you out of groupthink into more groupthink.
Right.
We encourage people to do their own research, to do their own homework, to stop listening to the liberal media and believing everything that they tell them, and to start thinking for yourself and break away from the victim narrative, the identity politics, the tribal mentality, the groupthink. Think for yourself. That's what this is all about. And then I basically am talking to young people about the problems that I have with liberal ideology and culture, especially talking about these, the identity politics and the victim narrative and things like that. So that's why we call it Thought Revolution. And that's the young people are absolutely a demographic that I think needs to hear this alternative point of view, because there's a lot of indoctrination, liberal indoctrination, or a lot of theory. Liberal theory is just accepted as proven fact, and that's not the case.
Absolutely. What's the response been like? Have you had much pushback from liberal student groups when you've gone places?
Well, we've only done 2 so far. The last one was embarrassingly tame. Everybody liked my message, which was a shame. I didn't even get my pulse up for one single moment. I was just sort of like, this is how I feel. And everyone was like, yeah. And I was like, really? Come on, somebody get mad. But the first one that we did have a significant amount of pushback. I'd say the audience was more opposition than sympathetic to my message. So did a Q&A afterwards with the kids who found a lot of my message to be problematic. But, I learned a lot from that first thing. It was the first time I did it.
Yeah.
I went in defensive. I think I went in a little offensive, to be honest. And I learned through that experience to craft my message differently. I think there's enough individuals and organizations and movements that are going onto college campuses and like triggering liberals. Like, I think I want my thing to be different. And so what I realized in that first engagement that I had, that for me, it's better to be a bridge than some sort of caustic, controversial figure. I think going on, I think I'm going to be controversial anyway, because I'm a gay man who's like, leave the Democrats. But I don't want to go and just piss people off for the sake of pissing people off. Right. I actually want to make a difference, and I actually want to change hearts and minds and voter registrations. And for me, the way to do that is by really connecting at a heart level. And I feel like I did that with those students in that first engagement, because it started off as a clash and confrontational, argumentative, contentious. But by the end, we were all hugging it out, like literally all hugging it out. And we even helped make peace between the Republican group that sponsored me and the other students that came in that hated not only me, but the Republican group. And that's what I want to do with my tour, is like be that bridge that brings these groups together.
I mean, I think it's something that's sorely needed in this country. Right now, there's almost an inability among people to have any kind of a discourse or a free exchange of ideas. If you don't subscribe to, the established narrative, then basically you are completely discounted and people will attack you. I mean, I've seen plenty of videos, people like Turning Point USA, people coming up and just ripping their booths apart, stealing their posters, dropping, cups of soda on people's heads. It's too bad because it really shows that these people are not interested in any kind of a debate. They're really just interested in, forcing their viewpoint upon people.
Right.
When you started talking to people in New York City, where you're from, did it cause any problems in your personal life? I mean, coming out as, somebody who was no longer going to be a Democrat, to the people in your life, I mean, was it a difficult transition?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I lost what I would say to be at least 90% of my friends. And I didn't just lose them. I lost their respect. I lost their love. I lost their kindness. I lost their warmth. Because they were people who, some of them have known me since I was 9 years old. Some of them knew me since the time I was born, and said just the most hurtful, vicious, nasty things to me. And some of them not only said vicious, nasty things, some of them told lies about me. Some of them slandered me. Some of them said that I was, as I told you earlier, I'm almost 5 years sober. And some of them said that I'd started drinking again, that I was on drugs, that I joined a cult, that I still get messages all the time from people that, I used to be close to, who haven't talked to me in a while, and say, what's going on with you? I'm hearing from people you've lost your mind. And I'm like, no, I actually got it back. Yeah. But it's like, so I mean, that was difficult to say, but I think that's part of the reason. Well, I know, that's a major reason why I started WalkAway in the first place, because I really got to the point where I had nothing to lose, because I'd lost almost everything anyway, and everybody. 2017 was a very depressing year for me, because I didn't have WalkAway. I didn't have this new life and these new friends, and this everything that I have today. And I lost the majority of what I did have, and I was having my world turned upside down by all this new knowledge that it was reversing everything that I ever believed in. I actually thought I was losing my mind for a while. I thought, and not in the hyperbolic joking way. I legitimately for a while thought that I maybe needed to see a psychiatrist, because I was like, this is not normal. It's not normal to one day think, believe all these things about the world, and that Republicans are bad and Democrats are good, and that the world is like this, and that CNN tells the truth, and Rachel Maddow is truthful and amazing, and then like be like, no, she's actually evil and horrible and a liar, and Republicans are not terrible people and Democrats kind of are. Like, that's not normal, right? And so I thought I was going completely crazy. And most of 2017, I just had to sort of watch my world fall apart. And while I thought that I was falling apart on the inside, and ultimately when I got through it, and I decided by the turn of the year in 2018 that I was now going to just be out loud and proud about what I believe, because I reached this point where I was like, I'm not wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not believing anything wrong. And as a gay man, I've been through this before. I've done the closet. I'm not doing the closet again. I'm not going to, sit around quietly while people make all these derogatory comments about me and, just feel like I have to be ashamed. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not. And so that's when I was like, we need a network of people to come together and support each. When you're gay, it's like you grow up and then you find that community. The gay community has their bars and restaurants, and there's always like that part of town where all the gay people live, right? But it's not really that way if you're a conservative. And there's, conservatives are, I think, more than half of the population. Gay people are a tiny, tiny part of the population. But I just thought this is so interesting that there's so many of us conservatives who are having this experience, but nobody's really doing anything about it to bring people together. And that's why I thought, we need this network of support. We need people to stand up and be like, no, I'm going to walk away from this party. I'm going to walk away from the lies. I'm going to walk away from Antifa. I'm going to walk away from the violence and the vandalism and the vitriol and the fake news. And I'm walking away, and I'm not going to do it by myself. And so I had this idea to bring people together so that they wouldn't have to be alone and go through what I went through.
Well, I commend you. My hat's off to you. I completely can relate to what you went through, because in 2016, when I came out as a Trump supporter, I lost all my friends. I lost my business. Every single client that I had pulled out because they were all Democrats. They were all liberals. So I had a complete, and total reversal of everything in my life. But now I'm very grateful for the changes that were made and for all the new friends that I've made. What kind of new relationships have you built now that, you can be honest about what you believe?
Right. Well, so I started WalkAway, and that's, people start joining the group and joining the conversation and building this family of, the patriots, I call them. Like Lady Gaga has her little monsters. I have my patriots. That's how I see myself, as the Lady Gaga of WalkAway.
Okay. That's cool.
Just so you know.
Sure.
So as the Lady Gaga of WalkAway, we built this patriot family, and I've handpicked people from this movement to be instrumental, team players in the organization. Since we work literally 7 days a week from beginning to end, my core team have kind of become my best friends. And I found all of them through WalkAway. So, I'm on the phone 10 hours a day with my core team, and we've become a family. And everywhere I go around the country now, I have friends and family because of this movement. And it's hard to put into words that this is how things have ended up, or this is how my life turned out. And it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about me. I just, I happen to be me. So this is my experience that I'm having. At the end of the day, what it's about is everybody in the movement and all of the people and how this is touching and impacting so many people's lives. But again, just because I happen to be Brandon Straka having this experience, it's every day I think I still wake up and my first thought is, did I dream it? Did I dream it? And then I'm like, no, this really is happening. It's never in my life did I dream that I would one day be a Republican, B, that I would be heading a conservative movement, if you could call it. Well, I guess it's just a non-liberal movement, and that I would now be traveling the country and loved and embraced and welcomed by conservatives, Republicans, Trump supporters, I actually spoke at a Trump rally on August 1st. I opened for President Trump for 18,000 people who, I barely got out of there alive because so many people wanted to give me a hug and a kiss, and it's like, it's just the world as we're being told it by the liberal media is all a big scam. It's just a scam. And I want as many people as possible to know that.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. How did you end up with that gig, speaking at the Trump rally? How did that come about?
It was a pretty cool series of events. In March of this year, I was invited to be Mark Levin's guest on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Sunday night on Fox News for the full hour. Now, WalkAway wasn't even a year old at this point. WalkAway was about 9 months old. And so you have to bear in mind, even today, still, I have a lot of learning to do. Like there's a lot of history, both in politics, American history, the history of, you look at something like the Russian collusion investigation, the Mueller report, and the impeachment. Like, there's so many names and details thrown around. It could take a lifetime to try to catch up on like who all these people are, because this is not something that was my wheelhouse before. This wasn't my world. Anyway, I got invited to be on Life, Liberty, and Levin, and I had no idea what a big deal it was. None. I had no clue. I knew who Mark Levin was. Like, I had heard his name. I knew who he was. When they asked me to be a guest, I thought it was going to be like when I went on Judge Jeanine or Tucker Carlson. Like, I thought I was going to be on his show for like 5 minutes. And I was like, cool, I'm going to be on the Mark Levin show for, 5 minutes, whatever. And then they wrote me back and they were like, well, you're Mark's guest for the full hour. And I was like, wait, what? And they were like, well, yeah, you'll be his only guest. And I was like, so I'm doing a one-on-one interview for a full hour on Fox News. And they were like, yeah. And I'm beginning to get it at this point. I'm like, I think this is bigger than I think it is, but I don't know. So I did the interview with Mark. I left the interview and I called my team and I was like, I think I did a really good job. I feel like it went really good. It aired that Sunday and it was like, bada bing, bada boom. The next thing I knew, I got an email from Laura Trump's assistant saying, Laura watched your interview. She said, we all, I think everyone in the office, she said, we all watched your interview and our minds were blown. She was like, we really want to meet you and talk to you. And I was like, wow, okay. So I went into Trump Tower and I met Laura Trump, who's like the world's nicest person. And the first words out of her mouth when she met me were, I saw your interview. I think you're amazing. I think what you're doing is amazing. How can I help? Like, what can I do?
Wow.
And so we just sat down, we talked for about an hour. And, I told her, I said, look, we're already kind of doing these town hall style events and talking to minority communities. Like, there's so much potential here for me to be able to be a liaison between the president and these communities and tell them, like, look, he's not like it's not what you think, it's not what you think. And so anyway, we had conversations about me doing a Trump rally or I think there will be more. I mean, we've talked about more in the future. But that's how that conversation started. And then they asked me to do the rally on August 1st in Cincinnati. And so the Trump team brought me to Cincinnati and I opened that rally and it was really awesome.
Yeah. Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Did you get to meet the president?
No.
Oh, that's a bummer.
No, I'm like really sad about it. Believe me. But you know what it is? I think he was on Air Force One while I was talking.
Ah, yes.
I mean, he's like the ultimate gangsta, like he literally like flies in, gets off the plane, drops the mic, gets back on the plane, and he's out of there. So it's not like he was backstage, eating Subway sandwiches with the rest of us. It was, but I think that at some point, hopefully, that will happen.
Well, I certainly wish you the best in that regard. Meeting the president would just be an absolute dream of mine, too.
Yeah.
So what do you see going on in New York City? It seems like there is a lot of vitriol directed at the president, particularly by New Yorkers, which seems strange to me because he's been a New Yorker for his whole life, and he was universally loved. You know, there was just that point at which the media decided that Trump was going to be the villain, and they started telling people to hate him. Did you notice that happening? You know, the point at which the president was no longer a beloved icon of New York City?
I feel like it happened so, it's like it both happened so fast, but it also happened so seamlessly. Mm-hmm. Because I remember when he announced he was running for president, they all took it as a joke. Yeah. Like they were all laughing and, you know, it just was like the news, the liberal media was laughing, the late night talk show hosts were laughing. And, you know, so it's like, if he truly were the second coming of Hitler or, you know, this like incredibly horrible, dangerous man, like I can't imagine there would be any point at which that would be a joke or that would be funny. But they were the ones perpetrating that it was so funny and it was a joke. And it wasn't until it was clear he was going to win the primary and that perhaps Hillary didn't automatically have this in the bag. I feel like that's the point where they began this transition into him becoming the second coming of Hitler. And they did it so fast and so seamlessly that, and you know, we're all, any of us following the liberal media, I think we're all kind of zombies, brainwashed to some degree. I mean, we trust these people. I trusted Anderson Cooper. I trusted Rachel Maddow and Don Lemon and Chris Stupid Cuomo and that Lawrence idiot O'Donnell and all those jackasses. I trusted all of them. And so when they all started saying it, I was like, well, it's got to be true. I mean, Rachel Maddow, she doesn't lie.
Right. I mean, as far as anybody knew, they are news anchors. You know, they're not giving their opinion. Right. They're telling people the truth.
Yeah.
So what is the structure of WalkAway? Have you created this as like a corporation, 501c3?
Right. So we have multiple arms. We are a 501c3, our foundation, the WalkAway Foundation. We're also the WalkAway Campaign LLC and the WalkAway Campaign Super PAC. Each organization allows us to engage in different types of activities. The foundation is for educational purposes, engaging in conversations about policies and issues and, you know, media related stuff, things like that. Our PAC allows us to be more overtly political. Although at this point, we've never really engaged in endorsing candidates or political parties or anything like that. We're mostly about talking about what we're walking away from, not telling people who they should be voting for or what they should be believing. So the closest we get to, you know, a political, well, we don't get close to a political endorsement. It's just not something that we do at this time. It's possible that our PAC could transition into that kind of thing if in the right situation. But I think we're most effective at this point in telling people, take a look at what you're currently believing and rethink it.
So I think it's safe to say that this is your career now. I mean, running the WalkAway movement. I mean, it's not just a, you know, I mean, it was very grassroots when it started, but now it's kind of become, you know, a life force unto itself.
This is several careers now. This is, I am one person doing about 15 jobs. And so is my whole team. I mean, and by whole team, I mean the like 5 of us. Where everybody does the work of about 10 to 15 different people. And I sincerely hope that that changes soon. I hope that we get to a point where the funding is in place for us to hire the staff that we actually need. I don't even pay myself. I've never paid myself from any of these, the foundation or the PAC or the LLC. I'm fortunate enough to be able to live and survive because I'm offered speaking engagements around the country, and I love to work. I mean, I'm a very hard worker. I have no life outside of my work. So I'm always happy. I travel on an almost weekly basis now doing speaking engagements, and that's how I keep my lights on and keep food in my ever increasing stomach. That's no, it's bad. I was so fit before I started WalkAway. I used to have a six pack. I was ripped, and now I'm like taking drastic measures because it's getting out of control. I don't want to be a fatty going on television representing this campaign. Anyway, so that's how the organization is structured. I'm at the point now where I do have 3 members of my team who are being paid for the work that they do. But one day I hope to have a much larger team so we can spread out the work more evenly and everyone gets paid well, and maybe even throw a salary at myself someday.
Well, you certainly deserve it.
Thank you.
Brandon, what did you do before this became your career?
When I first moved to New York, I moved to New York to become a singer and an actor. So my primary passions in life have always been being a performer. I was working in the restaurant industry for many years doing that as a waiter. And then in 2013, I went to cosmetology school in New York and I got my license in cosmetology and became a hairstylist.
Okay.
That did not end up being what I thought that it would be. I thought I was going to love being a hairstylist, and I thought it was, but I didn't. I just didn't. And it's so interesting because I really see now the ways in which everything in my life unfolded with a very specific purpose. I spent many, many, many years beating my head against many, many walls, largely because of choices that I made. But I think if the hairstylist thing had really worked out, if anything had really worked out, none of this would have happened. Because, I started working as a hairstylist and I got this job in a salon, and it had the potential to be a really good job. It had the potential that if I'd stayed with it, like within a year, I probably would have been making really good money and doing really well. And just every day I was going into bed at night and like my conscience was screaming at me, not whispering, screaming. This is wrong. This is wrong. You're doing the wrong thing. You've got to get out of this. You've got to get out of this. Like, I'm telling you, it was, and I finally had to go to that boss and say, I don't know why, but I cannot do this. Like, and she was like, I get it. She was like, you've got to go follow your passion. But I knew it just didn't make any sense because I was walking away from a job that would have led to something great into nothingness, really. And then I just started working as a freelance hairstylist just to kind of pay my bills while I was trying to figure out what is it that's missing, and in the process, all of this started happening. That was right around the time Trump got elected, right around the time I started to change. And then I transitioned out of being a freelance hairstylist into the WalkAway campaign. And I feel finally exactly where I'm supposed to be.
That's got it work in your life right there, Brandon.
I think so.
Exactly where you need to be. That's pretty great. Well, what is coming up? I mean, do you have potentially any political aspirations yourself?
So here's the deal with that. I have learned through, if the last 3 years of my life have taught me anything, it is never say never. Because if you had told me in early 2016 that I would become a Trump supporter, a Republican, that I would hate Hillary Clinton, that I would start a conservative movement, that I would have thought you were insane and I would have run away and jumped off a bridge. But seeing the way that things have changed so drastically in my life, like night and day, as I sit here before you today, my answer is no. I don't think I'm going to run for office. I don't see it in the cards, but you can never say never because next year I might be in Congress. I don't know.
It's very possible. I can see it. Brandon, I forgot one thing that I wanted to ask you about. What just happened at Politicon with April Ryan and the panel there? Very disingenuous of them.
So what happened at Politicon? That is your question. Well, at Politicon, the WalkAway campaign had a booth out on the main floor, and literally right next to our booth was a stage with seating and a panel. There was a panel of about 7 Black Americans, not a intellectually diverse person on the panel. Everyone was clearly a far leftist. The name of the panel was Being Black Under Trump. And the crux of the whole conversation was that if you're a Black American, you have to live in terror constantly of Trump supporters, and the terribly triggering sight of the red MAGA hat. which many on the panelists described as being more triggering than the white hood of the KKK. One panelist even said, at least with the hood of the KKK, they were wearing a hood which indicated that they knew that they had to be ashamed and hide who they were. The MAGA hat empowers people to be just as bad as the KKK, but they don't even have to hide their faces. What?
Insane.
So we all sat there and we listened as they went on, and the 20% of us who were Trump supporters were becoming increasingly angry and agitated and enraged by the things that they were saying. And we were told to wait until the very end and we could ask questions or comments of the panel. Well, imagine our surprise when we got to the end of the event of the panel and they were like, "Thank you all for coming. Have a great day." And they all stand up and we're like, "Wait, what?" So another guy who was there, who was a black Trump supporter, kind of stormed the microphone. And honestly, he got everything really riled up because he was kind of emotional and shouting and he was all over the place. Finally, I was able to get the microphone. But by that point, people were blowing whistles and shouting and trying to talk over me. And the Politico producers were trying to grab the mic out of my hand. And all I wanted to do was ask April Ryan, CNN reporter April Ryan, and White House reporter April Ryan, why she was such a liar. That's all I wanted to ask. April Ryan, why are you such a liar? Why do you love, were you born a liar? Did you become a liar later in life? Was it something that you acquired? Did it take practice? Do you like lying or do you not like lying? What is it about lying that appeals to you so much, April? And then I wanted to give her examples of blatant lies that she's told and how these lies have had negative impacts on the country at large, but minority communities who she claims to protect. And that's all. I wanted to ask these questions, and it turned into kind of an epic SHIT show. And but the footage is available for people to see. You're welcome to pipe it into the podcast if you want to.
All right, excellent. I think I'll go ahead and include a little snip there.
All right. Why not?
What was said and how the whole thing went down. The other day at Politicon, we listened as this panel went on, saying the most vicious, most hateful, most divisive, most untrue statements about Trump supporters.
The Klan hood was a sign that they even understood that it was socially inappropriate to be openly bigoted, openly racist, and openly violent towards non-white people. The MAGA hat is what tells you they don't have to worry about that no more. Trump hoods off. Trump has given them license to be all they can be. To be all the bigotry and all the racism and all the misogyny. He's given them license to be all of that out in public, in person. And if you fight with them too much, they will claim free speech. They will say you were taking away their free speech should you dare question their moral and ethical philosophy. The MAGA hat is interesting to me because it's a self-registration, right? This is from the same kind of group of people that generally doesn't like registration acts and doesn't like government control. They are self-identifying for you who they are and what they are about. And they are self-identifying that what they are about is not caring enough about who you are and who you are about to even show you the basic respect, as we all were taught, I'm sure, by our parents, of taking off your hat while you're inside.
Liberal people who were shouting, booing, making noises, and trying to prevent me from being able to speak, as well as producers of Politicon who were standing over me, trying to grab the microphone out of my hands and saying, "You're being disrespectful, you're being disrespectful," while the panelists themselves are standing up, talking over us, barking over at me, and I literally had not even had an opportunity to ask my question yet at this point.
All right. Well, Brandon, was there anything that we didn't cover that you want to tell the audience? Any upcoming engagements, anything that's coming in the pipeline for WalkAway or yourself?
Sure. So on November 9th, 1 week from when does this come out?
This will be coming out on Sunday.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Are we trying to give people the illusion that this is live?
Not at all. No.
Right.
I'm very forthcoming with it.
Since today is Sunday, so on Saturday, November 9th, we're doing our WalkAway Hispanic Americans Town Hall in District 14 of New York City. That's AOC's district. The next month, we're doing the WalkAway Jewish Americans Town Hall on December 10th, I believe. In January, we'll be doing the WalkAway American Women's Town Hall in Nashville. This is going to be a women's event. We're kind of billing it as the non-liberal ladies' night out. We want it to be rowdy. We want it to be loud. We want it to be fun. We're trying to get the likes of Diamond and Silk and Tommy Lahren and some other big name women up on a panel and just get a bunch of women under one roof to say, hey, we don't feel well represented by other women who wear vaginas on their heads and go to public events and scream and go crazy and don't shave their armpits and hate men. And we'd like to give a voice to women who are sick and tired of being represented by that type of woman. We have lots of college campus engagements coming up. Let's just make it easy for folks. Please go to walkawaycampaign.com, click events, and we have an events calendar for you there. You can see when we're coming to a college near you, to a city near you for one of our WalkAway events. It's all there at walkawaycampaign.com/events. And while you're there, click the donate button and support our cause, because I don't even get paid. And these events that we do are very expensive. Thousands of dollars that we have to spend for venues and security and marketing and to fly in speakers and put them up at hotels and things like that. We're really trying to make a difference in the world, and we count on support. So please support us. Walkawaycampaign.com, click donate, and check out our events calendar and see how you can get involved.
I'll also provide a link in the description of the video below. Brandon. All right. Well, thank you, Brandon, for explaining that. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I hope that we can have a conversation again in the future.
Would be great. Would love to talk to you again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.